So we are going to begin by doing an illustration. And this illustration, we are going to have A as 200 hours, R as 60%, B is the log of 0.6 multiplied by the log of 2 B is the log of 0.6 multiplied by the log of 2. Give me the answer to 2 decimals. Negative 0.74. Okay, then B plus 1 is 0.26. 0.26. So here we will have cumulative units. Then here we will have average time. Total time. Through, eh? Okay. So now, when you're dealing with running curve questions, there are two types of scenarios. Scenario one, we call it specific. Now, specific, it is where you are dealing with just one unit. Maybe I will explain in a better way when I'm in the second one. That's when it will be clear. So if you are dealing with one unit, it's one unit, then here you will say it is 200 times 1 raised to power minus 0.74. Get that answer. What is the answer? Okay, so what you do when you're reading these ones, you first of all raise this. So unachukua calculator, unasema 1 raised to, alafu nafinya, unaona iko na kamega chief. Unasema minus 0.74 equals 1, you raise equals. Now you multiply by the other one, 200. So the answer is what? That's how you work it out. Hii kwanza andika tu 200 hivyo. I will explain. Hiyo inaonekana when you go to the next level. That's when the formula is applicable. Ukikuja hapa, it will be 200 times 1 raised to power 0.26. So we do the same. The same 1 raised to power 0.26 equals multiplied by 200. The answer is still 200. When you go to that other formula, it is x. X is this one, 1 multiplied by y bar, which is 200. And the answer is what? 200. Let us go to number 2. Or rather to 2 units. If you're dealing with 2 units, then this will now be 200 times 2 raised to power minus 0.74. Are you getting 119? 119.75, eh? 0.75. Janet, you can also be setting your figures so that we compare the 3 verse. The next, now here, this formula, you see this formula says t plus 1 is r multiplied by y t. Now, if t is the current one, t plus 1 is the next one. So this is our t. So kitaka hii, the second one, you will take r, which is 0.6, you multiply by these 200. So if you multiply, that gives us around what? 100 and that's 120. Yeah. And you can see now, if this one was to be expressed into one decimal, or rather without a decimal, it will still be 120. Yeah. Tukikuja hapa, it is 200 times 2 raised to power 0.26. So that would be 2 raised to power 0.26 multiplied by 200. It is 239.49, actually 0.5, or 0.496. 0.496. When we go to this other side, it will be 2 times y bar. Y bar is 119.75. So 2 times 119.75 is 239.5. Let us go to 4. Let's go to 4. When you go to 4, it will be 200 times 4 raised to power 0.74 negative. So 4 raised to power negative 0.74 times 200, it is 71 point, now this one must be 0.698. Because hapa, it is now 0.6 r multiplied by this one, 120. So zeme 0.6 times 120 is 72. The next one, itakuwa 200 times 4, you raise power 0.26. So 200 times, 4 raised power 0.26, you multiply by 200, you are getting 286.791. Okay, then hapa utasema ni 4 times 71.698. 4 times 71.698 is 286.792. Now I want you to do on your own for 8. Do the one for 8. So now, nisomee what you have gotten. Hapa. Yeah. Good. Now, what this table shows you are several things. Number one, we said yesterday the time or the curve can be expressed into two. There is the average and the total. Na tukachora mpaka graph. Then I also gave you the formulas. I gave you this formula and this formula. But this table now is introducing two other formulas. Although even this one I think I wrote yesterday. We wrote this one. We wrote this one. Our graph. When you say y2, y bar 2 is equals to ry bar 1. Yeah. So we have also introduced this one. And the meaning of this, first of all, this one and this one, the ones that they have B, those are the normal formulas you have to have. Now, this one, it is what we said yesterday, that running is noted at double points. If you look at these ones, these are double points. One, double yake is 2. Double of 2 is 4. Double of 4 is 8. Double of 8 is 16. Those are what we call double points. And the meaning is this. When you do the third unit here, the 5, 6, 7, hapa ukipita 9, 10, all the way to 15, you don't notice any change. The change is noted after some time. It is just like if right now your body is weighing 10 kilograms, and then you consume meat 1 kg. Immediately ukimaliza kukula tuweke kwa ratili, you will not weigh 11. You will still weigh what? 10. But after some time, ukiendelea kukula kilo moja, now you start noticing what? The change. Yeah. So that's the same thing that happens here. So the change is only noted at a particular point of time. Another example is like when someone, tuseme mtu anakukosea, mtu amekuja anakuchokoza, anakuongelesha vibaya, anakutukana, chances are you will not react immediately. Kwanza utamgoja, upime, uone anataka nini, what is, then finally ifike mahali useme enough is what? Is enough. Now that point is what we are calling the double point. And this formula is only used when you are at double points. It's only used when you are at double points. But this one, and this one, and even this one, you can use them anywhere, even where there is no double point. The other thing is, when we talk of specific, we are simply asking ourselves a question. This X here, is our very first unit included in that X? The very first. If yes, that is now called specific. But if no, it is what now we are going to discuss, which is called interval. Interval, yes. If no. So sasa hiyo tumefungia hapo. So tutaendelea na hiyo table, but the table we are going to modify kidogo. We are going to modify the table. Let me modify the one how to go about it. So hiyo tutaifungia hapo. Sasa tukiteremka, sasa hii inateremka ikiwa peke yake na hii ikiwa peke yake. So hapa ndani sasa kameisha. Now we are doing the interval. Doing the interval. We start Now, interval, it is where, for example, you are told, tell us the time that was taken to make the second to the fourth unit. The second to the fourth. So this is how you go about it. It will be y bar for the first 4 minus y bar for the first 1. Because tunataka time ya kumake that second, third, fourth. So sasa itakuwa 200 times 4 raised power minus 0.74 minus 200 times 1 raised power minus 0.74. So tusiweke kwa calculator. 4 raised power minus 0.74 times 200. This is 71.698 minus 200. So minus 200, it is negative 128.302. Now this one, you see the reason as why it's negative. Ukiangalia kwa ile graph tulichora, hebu angalia kwa hiyo graph. Ilikuwa inaonyesha average inateremuka as you do more units. So you see when we have done 1 unit here, the average time is 200. But by the time you do the 4th unit, the average time is now what? 71. So the average of 4 units ni kidogo kuliko the average of 1. So that's why now mathematically it's negative. But practically it is not negative. Practically it's not. But mathematically it is negative. So the same thing we do here. We say y for the first 4 minus y for the first 1. So this will be 200 times 4 raised to power 26 minus 200 times 1 raised to power 26. So this is 286.791 minus 200. So obviously this will be 86.791. Now you see this one is not negative because he is cumulative total. The total of doing 4 units must be more than the total of 1 unit. Now ukiangalia kwa hiyo graph unaona ya total inaenda ikipanda juu. Another one. We are told to give us the time of making the ninth unit. The ninth unit. So that one will be also an interval which will be given as y bar for the first 9 minus y bar for the first 8. For the first 8. Na hapa nao utasema y for the first 9 minus y for the first 8. So this one will be 200 times 9 you raise power minus 74 minus 200 times 8 you raise power minus 0.74. You do the same case here. Raised power 0.26. So solve that. So you have gotten the answers, eh? Good. So now we shall do the past paper questions. Okay, let's go to page 136. Page 136, there is a question that was tested in December 2005. December 2005 as question 3. But for now, I want us to solve B, Roman 1. B, Roman 1. That is the question that I want us to solve. And the question reads, Pwani Marine Limited, a boat construction company, has developed a new type of speedboat called Speed Surf. The following information has been available to you. Boat construction is a continuous assembling process carried out at the company's yard. Boat assembling is labor intensive, involving the use of 2 classes of labor, namely skilled labor at standard rate of $12.50 per hour, semi-skilled labor at standard rate of shillings $9.50 per hour. Experience on boat construction from other models indicates that the use of skilled labor is associated with an 80% learning curve effect, whereas use of semi-skilled labor is associated with a 90% learning curve effect. Labor usage for the first speedboat assembled was as follows. We have the skilled labor, we have the semi-skilled. In October 2005, the 6th and the 7th speedboats were assembled from start to finish. During the month, the following labor usage and costs were recorded. Skilled labor, we have that. Semi-skilled labor, we have that. The management of Pwani Limited is concerned about the costs variances and would like to learn more on the composition of the variances. You are required to calculate the standard labor cost for the month of October. Now, when you are dealing with a question like this one, the very first thing is to know how many units are involved. Or before you talk of how many units, you must know which approach. That's the very first thing. Let's talk of the approach. Which approach are you going to use? Are you going to use the total, or you are going to use the average? The total or the average. Now, in this case, we are told to get the total because it is for two boats. So we are going to use the total. So the approach will be total. You must know it is total. Now, when you know it is total, how do you get the total? The formula for total is y is equals to ax b plus 1. B plus 1. When you have written down that formula, you now start identifying the components of that formula. And this is how you go about it. Now, see at this side. You see this B, this one, that one is known. Then B, we need to know how do we get B. We know that B is obtained as the log of R, you divide by the log of 2. The log of R, you divide by the log of 2. That is how we get B. So we need now, is that okay? Higher. Now from there, we need to look for the components of this formula. 2 tunaijua. So what we need to look for is R. Sasa R, tukikuja kwa information 3. Tukikuja kwa information 3, tunagundua there are 2 types of R's. So we may require to handle each on its own. So before then we write which R, we can first of all come here and check X. X, it is the same for everyone. And X, we know it is, tumeambiwa, it is the 6th and the 7th boats. So when you are told there is the 6th and the 7th, how many boats are those? If I tell you, bring me the 6th and the 7th, how many will you bring? How many will you bring? 2. Good. So X is 2. So X is 2. Then tukuje kwa hii A. A is the time taken to make the fast. Is the time taken to make the fast. You can see again, it is also depending on the department. So that tells us that now we have to narrow down to a department. So let's start with the first department. The first department, they are calling it, or the first type of labor, they are calling it skilled labor. So let's start with the skilled labor. Now, when we are in skilled labor, we need to identify R. So R, it is 80%, 0.8. So B then will be the log of 0.8. You divide by the log of 2. Negative 0.322. We can use 3 decimals. So if that is the case, then it means that B plus 1 will be minus 0.322 plus 1. .678. Haya, sasa tumepata B. Now we look for A. A is the time taken. If you look at information 4, you find that here A is 9:52 hours. Up to that point, we already now have everything that this formula requires. We know A, we know X, we know B plus 1. So we already now need to get what? Y. But for you to substitute, you must know now whether you are dealing with a specific case or interval. Na nimesema it is specific if the very first unit to be made is part of this X. And it is interval if the very first unit to be made is not part of this. So do you think the very first boat that was made in this company is part of this? Is it part of this? Ukikumbuka where we got these two. Tulisema ni the 6th and the 7th. So kabla ufike audio ufike 6. Tulianzia 1. So that first boat, is it included here? No, it's not included. Because actually what happened, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tukasimama hapo. Tukasema 6, 7. So when you wamekuja, number 1 is not included. Ameachwa. So that means this is an interval case. It's not a specific. Because the first one is not part of your X. So you can, to reinforce that, you say, since it is interval, y for 6 to 7, y for 6 to 7 will be y for the first 7 minus y for the first 5 minus y for the first 5. Tukisimamia 5 ndio sasa tutachukua 6 na 7. So we proceed here and say this then will be A, we already know it is 952. You multiply by 7, which is raised to power b plus 1, 0.678. Then you minus 952 multiplied by 5, which is raised to power 0.678. 0.678. And now we can say 7 raised to power 0.678 times 952. I'm getting 3561.34. We can use 2 decimals. I have 5 raised to power 0.678 times 952. I'm getting 28.4.91. And therefore, my time will be 3561 minus, rather, 0.34 minus 28, 34.91. It is 726.43. Are we agree? Okay, let's now come to unskilled labor. They are calling it un or semi. Semi-skilled there. So let's go to semi-skilled labor. Semi-skilled labor. Semi-skilled labor. So in the semi-skilled labor, again we say R is 0.9. R is 0.9. B is the log of 0.9. You divide by the logarithm of 2. You divide by the logarithm of 2. That gives us what? Negative 0.152. I have B plus 1 is negative 0.152 plus 1. .848. And then A, the time taken to make the very fast, is 650. 650 hours. So since it is interval, y for the 6 to 7 will be y for the first 7 minus y for the first 5. This will be 650 multiplied by 7 raised to power 0.848 minus 650 multiplied by 5 raised to power 0.48 raised to power 0.48. So if I say 7 raised to power 0.848 times 650, I'm getting that 384.98 minus 5 raised to power 0.848 multiplied by 650 is 2544.72. Sasa ukiwa na hiyo you say y is equals to that 384.98 minus 2544.72 equals 840.26 hours. So with that now, we can get the labor costs. Labor costs. So labor cost in the skilled, tulipata they require 726.43, and according to information 2, a skilled labor hour is paid for at 12.50. So you multiply by 12.50. Ukikuja kwa semi-skilled, we have gotten 840.26. And each one inalipwa 950. So you get your answer there and you write the total. Get your answer and write the total there. So hiyo tumemaliza Now that question we will not be able to finish because ukikumbuka jana tulisema one of the applications of running curves is standard costing and variance analysis. So this one is being applied in variances. So tutarudi hapo towards kwa mwisho when we will have done variance analysis. So let's and I need to give you a similar question that you can attempt. Let me look for a similar one. Yes, this question that is on page 74 of our papers. It is a question of December 2014. December 2014, question 1C. December 2014, question 1C. That one utaangalia baadaye, that's an assignment. So for now, let me look for another one that we can do together. And that is page 136. Let's go to the one on page 128. Page 128, a question of August 2009. A question of is on page 128. It's a question of August 2009. Question 1. Question number 1. So the question says, Double Entry Company Limited recently bid for a kitchen fitting contract in a new real estate development of 600 identical apartments. Deck Limited estimates that the first kitchen will take 24 labor hours to fit, and thereafter, the time taken to fit a kitchen will be subject to a 95% rate for up to 200 kitchens fitted. The running rate will then stabilize, and the time taken to fit kitchen number 200 will be the time taken to fit the entire remaining kitchen. Labor cost shillings 150 per hour, and overheads are absorbed on a labor hour basis. DEC has collected the following overhead information for the last 4 months. We are given that DEC Limited normal works for 120, it should be normally works for 120,000 hours in a year. DEC Limited uses high-low method to analyze overheads. The running curve equation is as given there. You are required to get the total cost that DEC will incur. Now, the first thing, or when you're dealing with these questions in AMA, it is always good to start with the answer. So the answer is total costs. That is what you are told to get, total costs. So in this question, tumeona there are 2 types of costs. First of all, there is labor costs. There is labor costs. Plus, there is overhead costs. There is overhead costs. There is overhead costs. So that is how our answer will look like. So we need to ask ourselves, how do we get overhead costs? We can start from here. Now, the overhead costs, you can see there is somewhere they have said overhead are absorbed on labor hour basis. So when you see something like that, it tells you that the overhead depend on labor hours. And we said when we introduced this topic that any cost that depends on the cost driver, that is a variable cost. And it therefore tells you that we are going to have the fixed costs plus the variable costs. We are going to have the fixed plus the variable costs. So if that is true, which is also supported by, naona hapo wamesema there is high row method information too. Anytime you see high row method, it should tell you there is the mixed cost. I think I gave you those costs, and it should be separated using the high row method so that you're able to know what is fixed and what is variable. So how are we going to get the variable costs? Now the variable costs will be overhead rate per hour, overhead rate per labor hour, multiplied by total labor hours, So that is how we shall get it. So now that tukifika hapo, how do we get the total labor hours? So we need to know, are we given total labor hours? Total labor hours, tukiangalia kwa hii swali, they are not given. So tunaweka question mark. How many are they? Hatujapewa. Na hizi zenye tumepewa hapo, the 120,000, it is for the whole year. It is not for the 600 units. So we need to know how do we get this. Now using running curve, you're going to try to the hours. And I have told you, anytime you mention the word running curve, the first thing to come into your mind is, am I using the total? Am I using the average? So here, because we are dealing with all the 600 kitchens, then we are talking of the total approach. Using running curve, total approach. Ukishasema hivyo, you quickly write the formula. Y is equals to AX B plus 1. That is the formula. And then I have told you, ukishaandika formula, you start now identify these components in the question. So one, ndio tunajua, but B, we need to get it. The examiner has given it, but it's given. This is how we compute it. It's not provided. It is the log of R. You divide by the log of 2, and we already know the R. In this question, we are told it is what? Oh, they have not given us, eh? We are only given the 0.9 or rather 0.074. So I was saying the examiner should have given you minus 0.074. It is already provided there. You can see the 0.04 is supposed to be minus as a typo. So the examiner has already given us that. The only thing that in your question paper is negative missing because of typing. This tells us that our B plus 1 will be minus 0.074 plus 1. Zero 0.82, 0.926. 926. Higher. Now let's go for X. How many kitchens are involved? A contract to make how many kitchens? 600, eh? So 600 units. Now your sentence ya kwanza. They have bid for a kitchen fitting contract in a new real estate development of 600. So total means 600. Sasa tuende tutafute A. A is the time that is taken to make the very first. According to the second sentence hapo, inasema Deck Limited estimates that the first kitchen will take what? 24 hours, sindio? 24 hours. So if that is the case, at that juncture, tuko na kila kitu kwa hii formula. So it is time now to substitute. When it is time to substitute, you have now to check or to confirm. Is it a case of specific or a case of interval? And we have just said that it is specific if the very first unit to be made is part of this text. So do you think the first kitchen utengenezwa is part of this one? Yes. So now that it is yes, it is specific mixed with interval. It is mixed with interval because there is a steady state. Now, steady state, ukiangalia kwa ile graph, maybe you could also note that because there is a steady state. K. Ukiangalia kwa graph ile tulichora, kuna mahali tuliweka K. Now, steady state means from there now onwards, there will be no more reduction in time. There will be no more reduction in time. And it then means thus Y for the 600. If you are looking for Y for the 600, it will be Y for the first 200 plus Y for the next 400. Y for the next 400. So we need to know what is the time for the 200. What is the time for the 200? Which now will be argued like this. Y for the 200 will be Y for the first 200 minus Y for the first 199. Y for the 200 will be Y for the first 200 minus Y for the first 199. So according to this formula, we have everything. So we now substitute such that we say 24 times 200 you raise to power 0.926. Then you minus 24 multiplied by 199, you raise to power 0.926. And this one becomes 200, you raise to power 0.926 times 24. You are getting that 243.13. Is that so? Then tukuje kwa huyu mwingine useme 199 raised to power 0.926 multiplied by 24. It is that 228.12. So this becomes that 243.13 plus, not plus, minus that 228.12, which is 15.01. Sawa. Haya, sasa tukirudi hapa, it is y for the 600. Y for the 600. It is y for the first 200. The first 200 you're here. So it is that 243.13 plus y for the next 400. So tachukua 400 multiplied by 15.01. 15.01. So times 400 plus that 243.13, 9247. 9247.13. And these are hours. Those are hours. So hiyo tulikuwa tumeitafuta kwa nini? Tulikuwa tunataka hii. Tulikuwa tunataka variable cost. So tushapata this one. So we need to look for this one. So we come here and say overhead rate per hour is what? Overhead rate per hour is what? Now that one is not given. So if it is not given, we know that there is a method called NAIROBI. So tutakuja sasa at that point to say using NAIROBI methods. NAIROBI methods. Using NAIROBI methods. This NAIROBI method inasemanga y is equals to a plus bx. Y is equals to a plus bx. So ukiangalia where we are given the labor hours, the highest number of labor hours is 96 and the cost is 1168. So utasema 1168,000 is equals to a plus 9600 b. 9600 b. And then the lowest is 92, which has 1136. 1136,000 is equals to a plus 9200 b. 9200 b. So this one, useme 68 minus that 6 is that 2000, which is equals to 400b, which is equals to 400b. So if it is 400B, let's look for B. B will be that 2,000 you divide by 400. And that is what? 80. Now this is the overhead rate per hour. The overhead rate per labor hour. The overhead rate per labor hour. So naona tulikuwa tumetoka huko. Sasa huyu tumepata. The overhead rate per labor hour. So we can now be able to get variable overhead costs. So, but because tutatengeneza katebo tuzipange, now sasa this one is already sorted because now we have this. Haya. Tunatafuta huyu. But huyo tutapata tukimaliza kusolve this one. So that now we come here and say 1168,000 is equal to A plus 9,600 times 80. So A will be, so if you say 9,600 times 80, then 1168,000 minus answer is 400,000. 400,000. Now this 400,000 is the fixed cost. Is the fixed cost. Sasa tukirudi nyuma where we began, this one is already sorted, even this one is already sorted. Even this one is also sorted because of your. Sasa tumebakisha labor cost. So how are we going to get labor cost? Or is it given? So tutakuja hapa tuseme labor cost. Labor cost will be rate per hour multiplied by labor hours or total hours. Labor total hours. Labor total hours. So sasa, we already know the labor hours. The total labor hours is. So this one is sorted. The rate per hour in the question is also given. Tumepewa 150. So you can see 150 somewhere. Yeah. So then that tells you now we can come and prepare cost statements. Cost statement for 600 units. Cost statement for 600 units. So that question will then require we get labor cost. Sasa tunarudi hivi. Sasa si tumejua sasa imepatikana. So now tunatafuta total, So let's start again now with the labor. Labor, tunajua the rate ni 150 times the labor hours. Tunajua ni 9247.13. You get your answer there. Then we kuja kwa overhead. And kwa overhead, nitaanza na variable. Nikikuja kwa variable, I already know the rate. The rate is 80 times 9247.13. Alafu nikuje na fixed. Fixed, I already know that it is equal to 400,000. And that now will afford me total. That's how you go systematically in answering the questions. The next question unaulizwa, demonstrate how the running rate of 95% is determined given that the fourth kitchen is expected to take 21.66 labor hours to feed. You demonstrate how to prove that. Provide for that. So demonstration. We are given y bar is equal to AXB. That's how we get y bar, the average. Eh? So we are told y bar is 21.66 hours. Y bar is 21.66 hours. We already know A. So that's A, we know it is 24 times 4 raised power B is 21.66. We are substituting these values in this equation. See what tunajua? How do we get B? We divide this side by 24. To achieve a 4B is 21.66. You divide by 24, which is equals to 1.66 divided by 24. It is 0.9025. So if you want to solve indices, I hope you remember those from 1 mathematics, you introduce logarithms. So that you say B log of 4, it is the same thing as the log of 0.9025. So that for you to get B, it will be the log of 0.9025. You divide by the logarithm of 4. So that will be log of 0.9025 divided by log of 4 is minus 0.074. Naona hiyo ndio vitu tulikuwa tumepewa na examiner. Yeah. So sasa now the examiner anataka tutafute B, tutafute R. B is given as the log of R. You divide by the log of 2. So if I want to get R, I will say the logarithm of R is multiplied. It is the same thing as B, logarithm of 2. So if I need R equal peke yake, then I need to say antilog. The antilogarithm of B, logarithm of 2. The antilog of so this proceeds to become R is the antilog of B. B, I know it is 0 is minus 0.074 logarithm of 2. So this is how you get it. Where can minus 0.074? Yeah, there. Logarithm of 2. Same equals. You have a minus 0.2 something. Then we'll finish shifts. Alafu finye log hii pattern ya logarithm. Alafu finye answer. Alafu finye equals. Yeah? Good. 0.95, which is 95%. That's how you can prove it. There's a question very similar to that I'm looking for. Yes, this one of May 2017. May 2017, question number 2B. May 2017, question number 2B, and that is also an assignment. The next question that I want us to solve is on page 122 to 123, is a December 2009. It's a question of December 2009. Is on page 122, 123. It's a question of December 2009. Question 1B. Question 1B. The question reads that Shahada Limited produces and sells product X. The product requires skilled labor and entails a learning curve effect in its production. An extract of the production hours for the product is provided below. So we are given that, and additional information. First of all, in that cumulative table, it is supposed to be 1, 2, 4. So 3 is not supposed to be there. So it is 1, 2, 4, 8. 1, 2, 4, 8. That's how they match. 1, 2, 4, 8. Although you have to right now. The following information relates to the previous production period. Cumulative production starts at a period of 528. Production during the period is 86. The standard and budgeted data for the product were as follows. So we are given budget production, budget overheads, standard labor cost, standard material cost. We are told to get the running curve rate. So when you're told to get the running curve rate, that is R. That is R. Now, in what I have taught you so far, I have not given you a formula for R on its own. Although in our derivation, in the question that we have just finished, R is equal to the antelope. But now for you to get that, you must know B. So what to measure B. But now here we do not know B. Now, if you go to the table that I gave you earlier on, if you go to the table that we started, the illustration, you'll be able to see there is a formula that contains R. There is a formula that was given like this. Y bar T plus 1 is R Y bar T. You remember that? So if then you are looking for R, then you say it is Y bar T plus 1. You divide by Y bar T. Then it means that we have the units, our X here. We have the units, which are our X there. And these units are 1, 2, 4, 8. Then we have the total time, Y. So Y, we are given 200, we are given 360, we are given 648, and we are given 1168. Oh, 1166. 1166, not 68. 1166. So that tells you that if you want y bar, it will be given as y divided by x. Like now here, it will be 200. You divide by 1, that gives us what? 200. That will be our y bar. Then 360, you divide by 2. That gives us what? 180. Then 648, you divide by 4. $162. And then 1166, you divide by 8. $145.75. And thus are. Now you already require the first two, but you may compute the others for useful purposes. The first two, you take 180, you divide by 200. $0.9. Similarly check for calculator without writing. E162 divided by 180. Does it give you the 0.9? Yes. So you already required the first two. So here to mejibu. The next thing is unit production cost. Unit production cost. So unit production costs. Unit production costs. Unit production costs will be given as total production costs. Total production costs. Total production cost, you divide by total units. Total units. So the question is then, total units, whether we have been told. We have been told that for this period, the total units are, production for the period, they are 86. Yeah. Then total production costs. Total production costs. We have not been given. But from the data that is given here, we will have the overheads. You can see the overheads. Plus una labor. Plus una material. Material. Those will be the three makeups of costs. So when you have those three makeups, we start looking for them. For the interest of time, overhead is already given there, 150. Material, you can see it is 250 per unit, and we already know the units. So here tunahitaji kujua ni labor cost. So using running curve, total approach or total method. Using running curve, total approach or total method, first of all, we write the formula is y is equals to ax b plus 1. Now we start identifying those items. So b, we know it is the log of r, you divide by the log of 2. We already know our r is 0.9. So the log of 0.9, you divide it by the log of 2, you tell me to 3 decimals what that value is. -0.5 negative 152. Good. So that now my b plus 1 will be negative 0.152 plus 1. 0.848. 0.848. X, we already know. So I think I can come back here. X, we know it is what? 86. A, the time for the very first. Tuko nayo hapa. Naona the first unit. Ilichukua 200. Sasa ni substitute. And in substituting, we need to know, is it a case of specific or a case of interval? And we simply ask ourselves, the very first unit that was made, is it part of these 86? And the answer is no. Because tunaambiwa, this company has been ongoing. And ukiangalia kwa information 1, bullet 1 inasema, cumulative production at the start of the period. So walikuwa washatengeneza zingine 528. Sasa wanaongezea 86. So ya kwanza yenye iliudwa is not part of this. So since it is an interval, y for the 86 will be y for the first 528 plus 86 minus y for the first 86. So this becomes our A, we already know it is 200. So 200 times E528. If you say 528 plus 86, you get 614. Eh? So 614 raised to power 0.848. You minus 200 multiplied by, oh, sorry, that's about 0.86. It is 528. Sorry for that. It's the first 528. 528 raised to power 0.848. So sasa hiyo itakuwa nikitumia my calculator niseme raised to power 0.848 times 200. I'm getting 614 raised to power 0.848 times 200. I'm getting 46,280.36 minus 528 raised to power 0.848 times 200. I get 40 721.48. So nikikuja niseme 46,280.36 minus 4721.48 is 5,558.88. That was what? Those are hours, eh? Tulikuwa tunatafuta hours. So tuko na kila kitu now. So we can get the cost statement. Cost statement for 86 units. The cost statement for 86 units. So tulikuwa tumesema hapa we have overhead, lakini tunaweza anza huko juu, tunaweza anza na material. Material, it is for one unit tumeambiwa ni 250. So it is 250 times 86. So 250 times 86 is 21,500. Kuja kwa labor. Labor, it is ndio hii tumetafuta tukasema ni 5558.88 hours times 1 hour inalipiwa 10 bob. So this will be 55,588.8. And then overhead, ile tulikuwa tumeandika pale. So overhead is already given as 159.03. 159.03. So you add this and get the total cost. Total cost, if I add 55,588.8 plus 150,903, I'm getting 227. Is that so? 991.8. And then my answer will be unit cost. Unit cost will then be these 227,991.8. You divide by 86. And then you tell them it is 2,651.07. So you can do that. Another, let me give you a small assignment. You can try December 2012, question 1. December 2012, question number 1. There is another simple one. This one of May 2016. May 2016, question 1, B and C. May 2016, question 1, B and C. Now, these questions that I give you as an assignment, you can submit your workings. I will mark for you as an assignment book. Or if you don't, or you're not able to submit the assignment, then you can buy my revision kit, but that now comes at a cost, which has some of the solutions. So we call it a day at that point and hope to meet in the next lesson.